Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This is the podcast for dairy owners, managers, and their trusted advisors who are looking to take themselves and their businesses to their next level of performance, resilience, and success in the dairy farming business. I'm your host, Peggy, and it's my mission to bring you the stories and thought leaders to help take you to your next up level. Dairy farm automation is an exciting forefront, filled with sensors, data, and promises of greater gains. But the challenge lies in choosing the technology that will truly accelerate your dairy farming business in the direction you want it to go. Our guests in this episode will share their real insights on how the investment in robotic technology is serving as a true business accelerator in these three key areas: productivity, efficiency, and profitability. From Rolinda Dairy in Waterville, Iowa, we are joined by Pat Reisinger, Sam Schwartz, and from DeLaval, their advisor, John Gerbitz. Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
So Pat and Sam, tell me a little bit about the journey in adapting technology.
Well, it's been about 2 years ago. We'd gotten up where we were milking about 450 cows and long days. And we knew we needed to do something different. That long term, that was not going to be sustainable. So we knew we had a couple options to expand. One of them was Hispanic labor. The other one was use technology and robots. And we felt that was a better fit for us, for our talents. So we started looking into that and started touring with DeLaval. Found some barns that we liked and got to go visit. Pretty much a duplicate of the barn that we currently have.
So describe what your barn is like.
Well, it's the barn is it's got a robot room in the center with 11 robots, and we have 4 pens within the barn. So 3 of the pens have 3 robots. One of the pens just has 2. That's a late lactation group for us. So we have drive-through feeding on the outsides of the barn. Well, it's inside, but on the exterior or the outside areas. But everything is based in the center, which is what we like. When Sam goes in that robot room, he's got access to all 11 robots very easily.
Yeah, so this design has led to efficiencies, and that sounds like you wanted to plan for that.
Absolutely. Almost everything we did in here was to save labor. So when people ask me, why did we go with a guided flow barn? The answer is simple. I don't, anytime we can hire technology to do our labor, we're going to look into that. So the guided flow saves us a lot of labor, and it's kind of a no-brainer for us.
Okay, speak into labor savings a little bit more. How many employees do you have on the dairy side?
Well, go ahead, Sam. You can talk about that.
As far as employees in our robot barn, we have 2 basically full-time employees, and myself. I spend about half the day every day in here. And then in our parlor, we have be like 3 full-time employees, and they also mix feed, take care of non-lactating cattle and other jobs around the farm. And then a handful of part-time employees that also help with field work. Calves, just a lot of different things around the farm. So in the robot barn, I myself do basically all the management side, as well as a lot of the robotic maintenance. So I take care of reproduction and health and computer management of the cattle. And then I go in the robot room and do a lot of the maintenance. The 2 full-time people that work up here basically do all the manual labor. They fetch cows. They wash and clean all the robots. They put in bedding, just kind of check the manure scrapers, scrape lanes manually. Just a lot of the manual labor is what they're doing all day throughout the week.
So as someone who works across the country with dairies like Pat and Sam here that are looking to really make these investments and good business decisions that will help them accelerate productivity, efficiency, and profitability, what are a couple of the key needle movers that you see when it comes to incorporating technology?
I think preparation is first of all, then that we start months before the startup with knowing what to expect through the startup process. And then I think as we move through it, it's being open-minded and being willing to learn and following the different trends. It's a learning process. And as we move, and I think Sam's going to probably back me up on this, that we've become really good at managing cows where we take them out of the pen every day and move them to a parlor. And it's a whole new way of managing cows. It changes how we manage repro. It changes how we bed cows, how we scrape stalls. All of those things need to be rethought as we stop moving cows and manage the barn with cows in the barn.
One of the things I really want to dig into today is that area of productivity. I mean, who doesn't want to have higher productivity, no matter what we're doing? And in productivity, we can look at that in a few different metrics when it comes to the dairy side. But for you, the cows are your focus. You are the cow guy here. So what would you say has been the biggest win in the area of productivity since moving toward automated dairying at Rolinda?
Yeah, Peggy. So moving from our parlor to robots, one of the things I've enjoyed the most, it's been very beneficial, is being able to target our milking permissions based on the cow's needs and stage of lactation. Being able to manage her in a way that really treats her. We're managing for production, I should say. We're managing her based on how much she's milking. Pellet intake, everything is down to the per cow basis and not a whole herd sense. It's been very efficient that way. We can get more cows per robot in certain pens because of their production and how often they need to be milked to get the most production out of them.
So you're doing a lot more individual cow management, really looking at these intakes based on the pellets, laying that next to productivity per cow, and then doing some regrouping, moving things around in order to really maximize that?
Yes, definitely. Yep.
Could you share like a story or an example of, maybe a cow recently where you saw some changes and you made some adjustments that led to, that higher picture of productivity?
Yeah, so we had a 2-year-old. We start all of our 2-year-olds off in our milking parlor. So she had a test day down in our milking parlor of about 80 pounds. We moved her up here to the robots, and within 3 weeks, she was over 130 pounds as a 2-year-old. And I looked her up individually one day, and she was milking 6 times a day. It's just, and that's not every cow by any means, but you can take a cow like that, and clearly what was holding her back is she was only getting milked 2 times a day. And you open that door and let her milk as often as she wants and drive her with pellets and energy in the pellets and really get her production to go above and beyond.
Yeah. So interesting, keywords I picked up there from you, Sam, were driving her with pellets and energy. So like you're giving her the goods and the freedom, right? To be able to make the most that she can. And in this case, that same cow, in a different scenario, if you were back full time in the parlor, do you think she would have hit 130 pounds?
I don't know. I doubt she would have. Definitely not that lactation, obviously. She had the potential to do that as older cow, but we really see it on the 2-year-old side. You see it in all the cows, but the 2-year-olds just really go above and beyond the ability to milk more frequently with a smaller udder. It's incredible what they can do.
Yeah. So when we talk about your biggest wins on the productivity side, it's, as you just pointed out, looking at those young cows and just giving them every opportunity to make the most of every mouthful of feed and every opportunity to step into that box and get milked, right?
Yeah. The other thing that I thought is a huge win for us, we haven't, in the parlor, we didn't struggle per se with repro. I actually, at some points, we did very well, but it's become extremely easy in their robotic barn. And I just attribute it mostly to cow comfort. These cows are so mellow, they don't feel the stress that our other cows do. And a little bit of that is attributed to our newer building with better ventilation and things like that. But the cow comfort, the level of the lower level of stress has just been huge.
Yeah, and you see that on repro. So just for example, can you share, I mean, you said repro really wasn't an issue in the past, but you are seeing gains that you didn't necessarily anticipate there. What does that gain look like? What are some of those metrics that you're at on the repro side?
So I personally don't watch preg rate as much. We have a decent preg rate. I'm fine with it. But really watch days open and number of breedings per pregnancy. So like number of breedings per pregnancy, we were at like 2.2, 2.3, which again isn't bad. But we've been able to get that well under 2, which I've been very happy with. And days open, we actually run a higher voluntary waiting period than any repro consultant will tell us to.
So how many days is that?
I do not touch a cow until they're 85 days. But I do not start an OVSync program until they're over 100 days, which they do not like. But I felt that has brought our breedings per pregnancy way down. Breeding cows a little farther into lactation and letting them get up on peak milk a little more.
When you take those 2-year-olds out of the parlor and move them to the robot barn and get those kind of results, what are some of the key things that you do to help those 2-year-olds adjust from the parlor to the robot barn?
That's one of the biggest questions we get often. And that is a huge part of that learning curve that you talked about earlier, John, because we failed at that very miserably to start with. For the first 6 to 9 months, we were bringing cows to our robot barn within 10 days of calving, and we didn't necessarily cut them loose, but we didn't overmanage them like we should have, or aggressively manage them, you might say. So we would put them in the pen and just kind of let them go and fetch them twice a day. And we saw a lot of our 2-year-olds go backwards. So what we've done with time is instead go the other way and start them up here at about 25 to 30 days in milk, give them a little time to get their feet under them, get them going. And then for 5 days, we bring them up on Mondays. So always put them in our robot barn on a Monday. And then for 5 days, we fetch them 3 times a day aggressively. And then kind of just cut it off, walk away from them, and they often do very well.
What other kind of, challenges have you overcome in this whole process of making a conversion to automation, but, really looking to leverage it and maximize it as an opportunity for productivity?
The biggest challenge that we have overcome, and I shouldn't say we've overcome it, we still work on it daily. One of the hardest things, I think John would attest to it also, one of the most difficult things in a robot barn is shutdown time or downtime on a robot. It's to a point, it's unavoidable. You always have some downtime. You have to wash robots. They do break. That's not people know that. But what we've done is tried to really increase the amount of time we put into maintenance and trying to watch them a lot closer, trying to catch things before they do become a problem on the robot. And it's a lot easier to assess them early. And avoid a 2 or 3 hour shutdown and instead shut down for 20 minutes and fix it.
Yeah. So just a more aggressive approach to maintenance and repair.
Yeah. Yep. Which takes a lot of time. Maintenance and repair ahead of time takes a lot of time, but it avoids shutdowns and frustration later and seems to work a lot better.
Yeah. Any other of those learning curve opportunities that you ran into and been able to tackle and have some wins in? Yeah,
as far as maintenance goes, anyways, it just takes a lot of time to get used to the machine, and it's a very back and forth thing where you don't want to pay a service tech to be here 3 times a week. So obviously, you try and do as much as you can on your own, but you don't want to overstep and do more than what you're capable of. But with time, like I say, we're about 2 years in now. With time, you spend enough time around the machine, it gets to be very simple to you. A lot of it does anyways. And yeah, with time, it just all gets better and easier. And you can see things. We've learned from, we have a dairy that's about an hour from here. We went and spent an afternoon with him. and he's had robots for 15 plus years. And he just has a lot of little tricks and things that you pick up on, and they make a huge difference.
One of the things that robot farmers concerned about is the alarms. And I think you've talked about the maintenance, some of the things that you do to avoid those nuisance alarms and keep the robots going.
So like one of the things we've done, it's easy for a cow to pull hoses off of cups. So we've put some extra rubber, some extra adhesive on there. It's just little things like that. Moving a rope around or putting an extra guard here or there really goes a long ways.
Yeah. So it's to put this into perspective of this area of productivity, for you, what it really sounds like is looking at every single way of how do we keep this robot going, operating open with as minimized downtime as possible. Like that's how you're capturing these extra gains, right?
Definitely. Yep.
I think what we see in parlors, when we delay milking an hour in the parlor, the cow holds the extra milk and we harvest it half an hour later. But in a robot, when there's downtime, that is lost productivity that you don't get back.
So what future improvements in this area do you believe are within reach, and which pieces of data and technology is it going to take to get you there?
So one goal that we've talked about that I really like is to see if we can get our farm average milk tank pounds over 100 pounds. I think it's a reasonable goal. It's going to take time for sure, but I think we can get there. So we've grown a lot in the last couple of years. So culling is going to be, we're going to be able to cull cows. We should be culling more aggressively. We also have started doing genomic testing. So genetic advancement within the herd is going to be much more realistic. We've always targeted genetics, but we can target it a lot more, or a lot better now. And then more efficient and quality feeds, I think, is a huge part of it. We do make really good feed already, but there's room for improvement. We just started planting some low lignin alfalfa last year, and I think that we can get a lot of improvement out of that as well.
Yeah. So really looking to maximize efficiency on the feed side, but then also in some ways, just continuing to do a lot of things that you're already doing in the system to just let cows reach their own genetic potential as you're able to capitalize on that more from the genetic side through genomics testing coupled with technology advancement.
So I myself get here at about 4:30 in the morning and fetch some cows, and then start doing just the management side of stuff. Those employees get here about 7 in the morning and work on their jobs in the barn here, fetching cows a couple times. And then they fetch again at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're basically all out of here by about 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night.
So Pat, speak to labor as a line item. You're the guy that handles the business side of the dairy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you look at, the numbers, where do you see the greatest gains and trade-offs when it comes to labor efficiency?
The biggest area we improved in is pounds of milk per employee. So we have basically doubled our herd from what we were 2 years ago with no additional labor. And we're getting more milk out of our cows. So we have more than doubled the pounds of milk per employee. So that's quite a step. That's hard to do in any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Sam, so, when we look at being able to get more milk, with less people, and you're the one that's doing a lot of the, the employee side and that hands-on management, how have you reinvested your time that you used to spend being more hands-on with cows into other ways to be more efficient and productive?
Yeah, so like Pat said, at one point we were milking 450 cows in our parlor. It was taking almost 5 hours of milking. Now we've dropped it down to milking takes 2, maybe 2.5 hours. But with that, we've added a lot of cows. Our mixing time has doubled, maybe tripled. Some days we can throw 2 people at mixing feed to really speed that side up. 1 or 2 of the guys have started helping me a little bit, move cattle around. do things like that. So instead of spending hours in the parlor, it's just hours spent differently feeding cattle and doing things a little more efficiently that way.
So we've really spent some time here talking about these touch points of efficiency and productivity. And the other big one that we're going to talk about today is profitability. And so we know that robots can collect tons of great data from herd management. And as you said, you're using other technologies too to bring in more data points. But let's talk more about putting that towards the business management side. Pat, how are you measuring the ROI on the investments you've made in technology?
Well, I don't specifically measure ROI, but it's a very simplified version, I guess, that works for me, is when I get the milk check and I pay all our bills, how much debt can we service beyond that is really it's a cash flow thing for me. But if we're able to keep all bills current and be paying down debt as aggressively as I want to, that's a great sign. We are just now getting to the point where we're really going to get a good feel for how that goes. Literally for 20 years, we have kept it growing and growing. And when you're growing, you rarely have any money. You're just reinvesting all of it and trying to borrow as little as possible. By the end of January, we'll be milking 900 cows. We'll have everything at maximum efficiency, and we're going to get a really good feel for where this is going. But all signs that I've seen look great, and our banker is tickled with it.
Yeah, and this is like the magic formula, right? Where we know that in your case, you guys are in a good spot with what you're doing on the cow side, but it's coming together full picture on the bottom line, and that's where the rubber meets the road.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And so I want to step into that just a little bit more with you, Pat, because oftentimes, when we talk about robots and automation, sometimes there's that side of it of, the lifestyle reasons why we make these choices and why dairies are making choices to go to automation. But also we can look at technology as giving dairies a competitive advantage. And so I'm really curious, how is technology between milking technology, herd data technology, specifically giving you a competitive advantage with your business?
It's a good question. And when you look at the labor pool, I think everybody nationwide will tell you the labor pool is tough. It's a lot different person that we are looking to hire now than what we used to. It's really hard for us to hire somebody to stand in a parlor for many hours out of the day. But if we can keep that person moving on different projects and not just standing and milking cows, that's a whole lot easier to hire. We've also had a couple instances where people called us looking for a job. So they see what we're doing, it looks interesting to them, and what a great scenario when the help is calling you looking for a job and you can pick and choose a little bit. So that's a big competitive advantage, I guess, right there. If you can take care of the labor end of things right now, the rest of it seems to fall in place.
When you look ahead into the next, 12 months, and we've got challenges coming at us from every direction on the dairy side, inflation, interest rates, input costs, and milk prices that are looking a little less favorable as we look out into 2023 as well. What is the biggest business decision that is on your mind in the next 12 months?
Probably in what form and when do we protect ourselves on the milk price? So inputs don't scare me. We grow most of our own feed. We buy very, very little fertilizer. Between our dairy and between our hog enterprise, the amount of manure that we have more than covers everything. So fertilizer is not a big deal. We've locked in our fuel for the year. That price doesn't scare me. So a lot of those inputs are not a big deal, but it's how can we capture the most value for our milk? That one stresses me a little bit. Right now, we're protected quite well the first half of the year, and I wish we were better protected on the second half of the year. Probably missed an opportunity a week or two ago So we'll have to keep a good eye on that and see if we can capitalize on a good value there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Those are some of those top of mind issues for producers across our country right now as we head into 2023.
Robots have been incredible for us, but also very challenging. I love it because it challenges you every day in a lot of different ways. John said earlier, you really have to be open-minded with robots, and I agree to that 100%. I mean, you watch the cows, you see what they do, and oftentimes the cows tell you what things you need to change. But it's also, it is a different lifestyle, but it isn't. You're still working every day, a lot of hours, but it's very enjoyable. The cows are very enjoyable to be around. It's not as backbreaking of work, so to speak. And it's really a different lifestyle that I enjoy a lot.
Great. Thank you, Sam. And John, you had something to add.
What would you say would be, maybe this is a dangerous question, but what would be an unexpected, the biggest surprise as you moved to robotic milking?
Well, I really don't know how to answer that. I am glad that there was people from DeLaval, people outside of DeLaval, who just said, don't think ahead as to what you're going to be doing every day. I went and spent one day up in northern Wisconsin with a young guy who also runs a robotic dairy and is very good at it. I went and spent a day with him, and I was glad I did. I just saw a lot of things that he does day to day that I didn't expect. But like I say, going into it open-minded it's been very helpful. I had no idea what to expect, and I'm glad I didn't assume. One of the biggest things we found out about 3 months in was my personal goal anyways was to run the barn by myself. I mean, manual labor, cow management, everything. My hope was to run, at the time we had 8 robots, was to run an 8-robot barn all by myself, management and labor. And we found out very quickly that was not possible. But yeah, being open-minded is huge.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing that honest feedback on what this journey has been like. But as you said, despite the challenges, it's been a good one. It sounds like it's been a good one, a good choice financially, personally, and to really maximize productivity, efficiency, and profitability. So John, as an advisor to dairies across the continent that are investing and implementing robotic technologies into their herds, what are the operations with the highest level of success with truly using robotics and other automated technologies to move their business model forward? What are they doing first before they ever sign a contract, make a down payment, cut a check?
I think it really comes down to knowing what they're trying to accomplish. And so if genetics is your thing, how will this work with your genetic program? If components are your thing, how are we going to support maintaining components, production, whatever your goal is, to know clearly what you want to do, what you want to be, then to visit a lot of farms and talk to a lot of people, do your homework. It still boils down to cow comfort, repro management, attention to detail, quality forages. All those things still matter, and probably matter even more. If there's holes in your management before, robotic milking is probably going to make them more evident rather than hide them. I think of it, you mentioned early in the podcast talking about this as an accelerator, and the picture of an accelerator in your pickup truck. If you slam the pedal to the floor, if you're going the right direction, you're going to get somewhere. But if you're going the wrong direction, you're also going to get the wrong place faster. And so to sum up, to be really clear about where you're going, about what your strengths are now, and where you want it, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you, John, is just being really clear as far as the vision and the goals of the dairy as a business, and what direction do you want to go? Where do your competitive advantages and opportunities lie? What are you already doing really well? And how can you use technology to be something that takes that needle and moves it further down the line? So as you said, like, this isn't to fix it. Robotics and technology in whatever shape or form, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not a fix it for a management problem. Really looking at it, as you said, as an accelerator and having a plan in place for how to take that action and make it happen. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, and I think at the same time, the fact that maybe there's a part of your operation that isn't going well doesn't mean you shouldn't look at robots. I've seen some places where the limiting factor is the building. The limiting factor is the equipment. And in those cases, we really see some great things happen as people go to robots. But where a more basic management factor is what's limiting, fix that first. And then when that's fixed, we can talk about robots and make some big things happen.
And so with that, I'm going to jump to my last 5 questions that I have for you guys. These are what I call the Uplevel 5. They're how I end every episode of the Uplevel podcast. It's all about getting to know you a little bit better and what you are doing to seek your next level of performance in life, in business, on the dairy, at home. You can take these however you'd like. And so since I have 3 of you, we're going to take a stab at including all of your responses here. So the first question I have for you is this. What does success look like to you?
Success to me, I hate to say it, but it has to involve to making money. I'm not very happy unless we're making money. But to go beyond that, it's got to be a lifestyle that we enjoy, that our employees enjoy. I want everybody to look forward to coming to work and enjoying their day and also enjoying their time off. And that's something that we have to work on. We really have not spent a lot of time not working for the last very many years. We're both married, have kids, and that is an area that we just know we need to focus, and we want to focus on, not that we need to, but our families are important to us, and that's something that will be a part of the picture of being successful.
Yeah. And Sam, what does success look like to you?
Well, it's clear that Pat and I spend a lot of time together, but in simple words, I just say being profitable while doing what you love to do every day. It's a simple way of saying what Pat said, but it's just waking up every day and planning to go to work, making money, but really you're not working. It's what you do every day and you love to do it.
Yeah. And you're having such a good time, right, Sam?
If we are, it is very enjoyable.
Awesome. And John, for you, what does success look like to you?
I think for me, I'm going to say it's about influence. And it's who am I able to influence? How am I able to influence them? And also, what do I allow to influence me? And whether that's in my church, in the organizations I'm involved with my family, my grandkids, or my professional life, it's what kind of influence can I have?
Great responses, guys. Question number 2 for you. In 3 words, how do you want to show up each day?
I can jump in there. I wrote a couple words down, but I want to be driven every day. I never want to show up not motivated. I want to be excited. I really enjoy what I do, and it's fun. And Pat told me one day, he said, well, when he saw the barn that we actually replicated, he said, I want to be able to go to work every day and see this amazing barn and be excited to be here. And so I want to be driven, I want to be excited, and I want to be open-minded, because you truly learn something every day. You might not see it or notice it until later, but you learn something every day.
Yeah, and you have those robots to help you with that, right? Pat, how about you?
I always keep in mind I want to be fair. I want to be fair to the cows. I want to be fair to our community. I want to be fair to our employees. I want to be fair to our families. That's a big one to me, is treating people how we want to be treated, and just doing the best we can.
Thank you. And John, how about you? 3 words. How do you want to show up?
Ready to learn, I think that's something that I really like about what I do for DeLaval is there is always something new to learn about robots, and it really makes my life interesting is opportunities to learn things.
Sounds like you're all in your sweet spot with the things you were doing right now and how you want to show up each day to do them. And question number 3, who are a couple of the thought leaders that you follow?
I would just be very simple and say, my father taught me work ethic, and he's a small town doctor and one of the only doctors in town. And for that reason, he truly works sometimes 18 to 24 hours a day. And it was a different childhood than most, but I learned from it in a good way, that you can work hard and it is very bountiful. And then as a young kid, I learned a lot from Pat's father-in-law, Bob, and Pat himself, just how to handle cattle, how to be around people, and just how to be a good person.
Yeah. So you've been very fortunate to have some of your greatest influencers right in your own family and in your own neighborhood. And now that you get to see every single day in the business side. And so, Pat, how about you? A couple of thought leaders that you follow?
Yeah, my main one is also in my family, and it's my wife. And she's very, very intelligent. She's very humble. No drama in her life. She is just rock solid for me every day. And her faith is strong. I just admire everything that she does. And when I have a rough day, I go to her. When I need advice, she looks at things differently than I do, which can be very refreshing. I'd be lost without her.
Oh, and you just scored some major points, Pat. Oh, and John, how about you?
Well, I hesitate because I think of the people that I'm leaving out if I narrow it down to just one person. But I think we've all talked about family, and I'm going to talk about family as well. And I think my mom, who had the ability to break things down into little pieces and always very intentional in everything she did. You know, they say to eat an elephant, you one bite at a time. And I think my mom ate about 5 elephants in her lifetime, and watching how she went about that was really helpful to me.
Oh, what a blessing to have these people right in your families and close by that can be such great influences and provide great leadership. And question number 4, what words do you live by?
I can start with this one if you want. I was in a Farm Bureau leadership program, and I was asked this question of words that you live by. And we were supposed to have 6 words that define our life. And we were given 5 minutes to think of them. And in about 15 seconds, it came to me. And I kept counting, was this really 6 words? And, you know, was it really right? God is my refuge and strength is really what came to me and has been ever since, and before that as well.
And that is a solid rock right there. And for Pat and Sam, words that you live by.
I think about a saying that my father-in-law told me a lot is always treat people well, treat them with respect until they take advantage of that. And then you move on. And I think about that a lot. I think everybody in our farm, I hope that's something they all pick up on. When they go to town, they're representing our farm. They should treat people well. They should treat them with respect. When service people are here working on things, I expect that. On the other hand, if somebody takes advantage of that, then we move on. That's just not accepted. And how we like to look at things.
And Sam, for you?
Pat might have to correct me here. I don't know if he's the one that told me this, but I think it goes, success is the combination of preparedness and timeliness. It's just knowing or being ready for something before it happens. And then when it happens, you're ready to handle the situation.
That plays right into what you talked about before with staying up on the maintenance on those robots, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
and in many other areas.
Yes.
And last question for you of the Uplevel 5, what is your next personal uplevel? What is that one area of life that you are looking at right now and taking to its next level?
I touched on it a little bit ago. I know we need to set things up so we at least have the ability to get away. We need to spend times with our family. We need to get away from here and come back refreshed and energized. I think that is probably going to be one of our goals for this year, and one that I think is attainable.
And now you will be held accountable because you are telling everyone on the podcast that you're going on vacation, and so is Sam. So.
Big steps.
Oh, and Sam, for you, what's your next personal up level?
I'll piggyback off Pat a little bit, but family and farm life balance. I think every farmer would tell you that that's a very difficult balance. I have a 2-year-old son and a baby on the way, which makes things at home very hectic. But there's a balance. I mean, I'm very excited for the day when I can bring my kids to work with me and get them to live this life with us. And I'm very excited for that. The other thing, just personally, just my own self, is I just want to learn more about the business I'm in. You never stop learning in this business, and there's a lot of tools out there to learn. I just would like to better utilize those.
And John, for you, your next personal up level?
I think we're going to follow along in the same vein that Pat and Sam went. And for me, at a different stage in life, I'm kind of liking being a grandpa and putting more time into being a grandpa and providing some unique experiences for grandkids and enjoying that.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful place to take things to your next level. And so, gentlemen, Sam, Pat, John, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Coffeen. And if you like what you heard today, go ahead and head on over to upleveldairy.com to read the blog and join the Uplevel Dairy email list so you can receive new podcasts, blogs, and special offers coming soon from Uplevel Dairy straight in your inbox. To listen to more episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and don't forget to rate and review. Connect with me, Peggy, at peggy@upleveldairy.com, and follow Uplevel Dairy on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.